Hey YouTube, it's Karen San Diego, and I know that I have not recorded a video in a very long time, but I promise you that I have a really good reason that I'm really excited to share with you. And if you read the description, you already know that I had a baby. This is my daughter. This is Ryan. She'll be with me for the remainder of this video. So if you hear some crying, some squeaking, some baby noises, it's my pumpkin. So I just wanted to come on and give you guys a little chit chat, a little story time about how it is exactly that I found out that I'm pregnant, that I was pregnant, because Lord, it was a journey. It was crazy, and it's definitely video worthy. So go ahead, get your tea bags ready, put the kettle on, get your coffee, your juice, your snacks, whatever it is you need, because it's going to be a long one. What are you doing? What are you doing? So let's rewind all the way back to before I was pregnant. For those of you that follow me on Instagram, you're aware that in 2017, me and my husband had a second trimester loss due to incompetent cervix. I was pregnant and we lost the pregnancy at 20 weeks. We lost our daughter, Zuri Renee Charles, and that was a devastating blow to us. It caused me a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, not just me, for both of us. And although it was definitely probably hands down the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, we still wanted to try again. We always knew that having another child was definitely destined in the cards for us. We knew it's what we wanted. And oh no. And very soon after, we started trying. So this was in 2017. We started trying, and in my mind, I always thought that it would be wham bam, thank you ma'am, I'd just be pregnant again, easy, and that was not the case with me at all, not even remotely. And it was crazy because when I got pregnant the first time, we weren't trying. It just kind of happened. So I assumed that getting pregnant easily was something that would be my story, but definitely not. So after that, we went to countless gynecologists. We went to countless fertility doctors, fertility clinics, specialists, anybody that we can go to. We tried acupuncture, we tried herbal remedies, anything that would help. And for 2 years, nothing. And it wasn't until, what month are we in? It wasn't until like December of 2018 that we were like, you know what? Clearly there's a problem here. And we decided to go in and talk to a doctor about in vitro fertilization, IVF. So we went in, we had our consultation, and myself and my husband were both screened to see if there was any reasons that we would not be able to get pregnant on our own. I was checked out, and they told me that based off what they saw with my ovaries, and sidebar, I do have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or PCOS, which just means that there is benign cysts growing on my ovaries, which can cause infertility. It can cause things like excessive hair growth on the face. It can cause weight gain, which I do have that, and abnormal periods, which I definitely had, which had never really affected me in the past, but right now, at this point, it was affecting me from getting pregnant. So they said, due to the severity of my PCOS, that I would not be able to get pregnant on my own, and I would need medical intervention. Oh no. Which was a huge blow. Then my husband got checked, and they said a similar thing to him, that it would be difficult for both of us, given our individual situations, for us to get pregnant naturally. And that was, once again, a huge blow for both of us, hearing that, like, the dream that we had would possibly never come true again without paying for it. And when I say paying for it, I mean like upwards of $20,000 paying for it. But we talked about it, and we looked into finances and figured that, you know what, this was something that we wanted to go get into. The specific clinic that we were looking at had a program where after 3 sessions, if it didn't work, you get all your money back. So we thought that that was worth it. And we decided to sign the papers. Keep in mind that at that visit, they did a sonogram and to determine if I was ovulating on my own. And they told me that I did not ovulate, and that based off what they saw in the sonogram, I had not ovulated for months, and that I most likely do not ovulate on my own except for very rare occasions, which is how they said I got pregnant the first time. So that was like, I think that was Monday. That was a Monday. I went in, they told me that I wasn't ovulating, that I had not ovulated in a very long time, and that I could not get pregnant on my own. Came home, cried like a baby. And then once I stopped crying, I was like, you know what? We're going to do the IVF. It's going to be okay. We're going to have our baby. And that was that. So the next day, me and my husband, stop it. Me and my husband went down for a nap. We took a nap. I woke up from the nap and I felt just exhausted. And like, outside of being pregnant, I don't know a time when I ever wake up exhausted the way I felt. I felt exhausted, I felt sick, and I was like, something is not right. And automatically, because I had been pregnant before, I assumed, you know what, this feels like pregnancy. But because for 2 years I had been getting nothing but negative pregnancy tests, I automatically did not want to go there. I was like, you know what, it feels like I'm pregnant, but I don't think I'm pregnant. So I got up from the nap, went in the bathroom, and because we had been trying for 2 years, I have like a stockpile of pregnancy tests in my bathroom cabinet, and I took one, peed on it, and automatically just threw it in the garbage. Like, I was like, why am I even playing myself? She threw up. Yeah, so I thought, why am I even playing myself? I just kind of took the little strip, threw it in the garbage, completely forgot about it, and was just like, you know what, not pregnant. Came back in and was obviously upset, and my husband asked me what was wrong. Told him I took a pregnancy test, it was negative, don't worry about it. And that was pretty much it. That was literally it, until the next day when we took another nap. And I woke up from the, hi mama, hi. I woke up from the nap again, feeling crazy for a second time. And I'm like, you know what? This feels like something. So I went in this time. And this time I took a digital pregnancy test. That way I would not have any confusion about the lines. And the digital test, within like a minute, and usually it takes like 5 minutes for that thing to go pregnant, within like a minute it said pregnant. And I automatically just called my husband in. We were so excited. Like, we had planned that if we ever were to get pregnant again, that we were gonna hold off on telling anybody until I was in the second trimester. But we could not even, like, we were so excited that we just started FaceTiming my mom and his sister and my sister. And we were just so excited to share the news without even knowing, like, without verifying it with the doctor or anything like that. We were just like so overjoyed that we just started telling everyone. Fast forward to the next day. So in Brooklyn, there's a clinic that it's like an urgent care, but for GYN stuff. So I usually go to that clinic for anything that's like a quick thing, or confirming pregnancy. I had confirmed my last pregnancy there. And there's a doctor that I usually see when I go there, and he's the father, and then there's a son too, but the father is who I usually see. And I saw the father. He did an ultrasound, and he saw the gestational sac, but no yolk sac yet. But mind you, I had just found out that I was pregnant the day before, so he wasn't concerned and I wasn't concerned, just because. What happened? What are you doing? Mommy's not paying attention to you? Mommy's not paying attention to you? Yeah, so there was a gestational sac, but there was no yolk sac. So he told me to come back in a week and see if there was any progression and if the yolk sac was to appear. So that's what I did. He told me to come back in. A week. So that's what I did. So a week later, and they did blood test results to check my progesterone. They told me to call back the next day to check on that, and I did. And my progesterone numbers were going up as normal, and they were not concerned. So they told me to wait, come in for my next appointment. I did the following week, and the father was not there this time, but his son was. So I went to go see the son, and the son does the ultrasound, and he looks at my uterus, sees the gestational sac. This time I can see, because I do a lot of research on these things, so I knew what a yolk sac looked like. He does the ultrasound, sees my gestational sac. There's a yolk sac clearly there, which automatically excites me. I'm like, oh, look, the yolk sac. When I say that, he kind of ignores what I said and takes the ultrasound and moves it over to where my ovaries are. And then he like kind of makes like a oh no type of face. So I'm like, oh no, like I'm like, the yolk sac is right there, right? Can I see it? And he was like, in a second. I'm like, okay. So he's over by my ovaries, and he's putting the ultrasound there instead of putting it on the yolk sac. And I'm like, okay, so why are we not looking at the yolk sac? Can we measure that? Can we see like what the gestational age might be? And then he tells me, unfortunately, that is not a yolk sac. That is something called a pseudo sac, which is just like a fake yolk sac. And then he tells me that the baby is in fact in my tubes, and that's saying that it's an ectopic pregnancy. Automatically, I start to break down. I'm like, there's no way that I could be given such a blessing and then for it to be taken away from me so fast. I just could not believe that that could be what was happening to me. Like, I just refused to believe that that could be what was happening to me. So instantly I just start crying. I'm crying, my husband's crying, and then this doctor, he tells me, yes, you know, you need to go to the hospital as soon as possible and have them terminate this pregnancy, or else you will likely die. Like, literally, he says you will likely die. It will erupt, it will burst, and you can bleed out. So then he says that, he kind of just like drops that bomb on us, walks out the room, and has a nurse come in to console us, because at this point I am hysterically crying. Fast forward to the next day. At this point, it's really late, so I didn't go to the hospital at that time. I'm a processor. I need to be able to process my emotions, and I just couldn't at that point in time. So the next morning, we go to the emergency room, and they bring me up for an ultrasound, have an ultrasound. The ultrasound lady is like, hey, why'd you come in again? And I tell her, well, the doctor said I have an ectopic pregnancy. And she's like, well, where? And I'm looking at her like, what do you mean where? Like, you're an ultrasound tech, like, you know where my ovaries are. Like, look there. In my I keep saying ovaries. I'm talking about my fallopian tubes. Ectopic pregnancy is a pregnancy that's in the fallopian tubes, not in the uterus where it belongs. So she's like, I'm like, in my tube. And she's like, which tube? Hi. What? What's funny? It's supposed. She said that she was like, can't even talk now. You're so cute. Oh my goodness. So she said that. Yeah, she was like, where? And I'm like, in my tube. I believe he said my left tube. So she's showing me the tube, and she's showing me the right tube, and she's like, there is no pregnancy. Your pregnancy is right here in your uterus. And I'm like, there's no way. He even went as far as to show me the heartbeat of the pregnancy in my tube at that appointment the day before. And she's like, sweetheart, no, your pregnancy is right here. It's in the uterus. Congratulations. You're going to be a mom. And like, when I said a few seconds ago that I'm a processor. It takes me a really long time to process things. And I just was told yesterday that I had an ectopic pregnancy and needed to terminate. And now you're telling me, congratulations, you're going to be a mom. So I'm just sitting there like, what? So then obviously I call my mom, I call my husband's mom and family members and tell them, you know, everything's okay. We got really great news. The baby's fine. I'm gonna be going to see my doctor next week, my actual doctor, not the clinic doctor. And hopefully everything continues to go well in this pregnancy. Fast forward another about 2 days. That doctor from the clinic calls me back again. He says, hey, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. How'd everything go? And I tell him like, hey, actually everything went really well. Everything actually went really well. I do not have to terminate anything, but the pregnancy is not in the tubes, and it's in my uterus where it belongs. And he goes, mind you, this is a doctor. I also want to say, remind you, this is 9 o'clock at night, and he's a doctor. And he goes, what hospital did you go to? And I told him the name of the hospital I went to, and he goes, well, those doctors are bleeping idiots. I'm like, well, they gave me good news. I'm like, they said everything is fine. This is good news. And he goes, well, I'm a doctor and I'm a specialist and I know what I'm talking about. And I know an ectopic pregnancy when I see one. And he's saying this to me on the phone at 9 o'clock at night. So I'm like, well, I was like, well, they had about 3 doctors come in and give me a second opinion and they all said it was fine. So I'm like, I'm actually really happy. And he was like, oh, well, they got your hopes up for nothing. It's an ectopic pregnancy. You're gonna bleed out. And I'm like, what? So at this point, I'm literally so confused. I'm calling back the doctor that I have scheduled to see the next week, and I'm trying to push up the appointment. Like, I'm scared. So then the next day, I'm at work and it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. This doctor calls me again and he's like, hey, just trying to figure out, did you go back to the emergency room? Just trying to check on you. And I was like, no, I didn't. They told me everything's fine. I don't want to freak myself out. Once again, starts cursing and saying the doctors are bleeping idiots. Bleep stands for the F word, by the way. He's saying the doctors are bleeping idiots and I need to get back to his office right away because he needs to handle this because my idiot doctors are not handling it. So at this point now, I'm frustrated. I don't know what to believe. I'm so confused. And like I don't, like, what? How do you even handle that? So every day, this man calls me for the next week, leading up to when I have my next doctor's appointment with the doctor that would be the doctor who ends up delivering this baby. And at that doctor's appointment, she does another ultrasound. And at this point, there is a heartbeat. And the gestational sac is there, the yolk sac is there, and there's a heartbeat in the yolk sac. So she shows me that and she's like, no, everything is really fine. There's a heartbeat here now. This is a viable pregnancy. This doctor is still calling me. At this point, he had gone through my file and found my husband's number as my emergency contact and started calling my husband, telling my husband that I needed to go to the emergency room and terminate my pregnancy ASAP. And like, we're both freaking out, but now at this point, we know everything is fine. So we just kind of started to write it off as this doctor is bleeping nuts. But still, it was just like, that was so much unnecessary stress put on the first few days of my pregnancy, first few weeks of my pregnancy for no actual reason. So yeah, so that is pretty much the story of how I found out that I was pregnant. Luckily for me, the rest of my pregnancy actually went pretty well. I do have some stories to tell about my actual pregnancy, which I will do in another video. Just a pregnancy recap video where I tell you about things like I got a cerclage done for my incompetent cervix, I had gestational diabetes, I had a C-section, like all of those things I want to talk about in my pregnancy recap video. But for this video, I want to talk about how I found out I was pregnant and the craziness that went on with that. But yeah, that's it. So before I end the video, I just want to allow Miss Chatty Cathy down here, Miss Ryan, who wanted to be a part of this video the whole time, but mommy did not let her. I want you guys to meet Ryan. Say hi. So Ryan would like to tell you all that if you have not already, make sure that you drop down and press subscribe so that you can see more videos from us. We're going to be doing a lot of mommy and me videos from here on out. So Ryan said that if you don't subscribe, then how are you going to get all this bomb content that mom is about to put up, right? So if you have a crazy story about how you found out that you were pregnant, drop it down there in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video.